Hey friends, Kevin Gehring here, your Sacramento, Stockton area realtor and lender, here with another installment of The Dirty Little Secret. Now, last episode, I talked a lot about the hidden money on rate sheets and what you can do with that. So this week, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more and expand out on that. So you're driving down the road and you hear these commercials, which seem to be nonstop on talk radio, if you listen to talk radio like I do, that talk about how a lender can refinance your home. No appraisal, no lender fees, no title, no escrow, I'll pay it all. And you look at that lender and then you call another lender and they have this rate sheet, they have their fee sheet. They talk about, well, there's title, there's escrow, there's appraisal fees, there's all these other fees. And you're kind of looking at it thinking, now, wait a minute. Lender A tells me he has absolutely no fees. Lender B has a bunch of fees. Well, obviously, shouldn't you then go with lender A? I mean, why pay fees, right? Well, let me show you exactly what's going on with that and why it may be advantageous to go one way or it may be advantageous to go the other. So before we get into that, let me show you this. Let's talk about fees real quick. All right, so the first thing I want to do, you have to understand that we really want to lump fees into really two categories. So we have closing costs, which are title, escrow, points, lender fees, prepaid fees. Sometimes we call these non-recurring fees, which is to say they don't occur all the time. They only occur when you refinance. If you don't refinance, you don't pay these fees. So title and escrow, let's just say $1,200, underwriting fees, credit report, other miscellaneous fees, $1,000, appraisal, $500, and prepaid interest, which is the interest that you pay on a loan because when you own a home, you pay in arrears. So you live there, then pay, live there, then pay, except for the first month, you pay for the prepaid interest. So let's just throw these in there. Let's just say that the cost to do the refinancing is $3,050. All right. Now, what is not a true cost, we call them recurring costs, things that you will pay whether you live there, things that you will pay because you live there, whether you refinance or not. Right? And that is your taxes and insurance. For some people, it's going to be private mortgage insurance as well. You can also include homeowners association in that too. But let's just take a look at this. So let's just say we call it impounds. Some people call it escrow. I don't like to use that word because you have the escrow fee up here, right? So that's different. So we'll call them impounds. Impounds vary depending on the time of year that you close, especially for taxes. So really the most you're ever going to pay is 9 months of reserves. And what this is, if you're getting ready to say close your loan and you're not going to make a payment for a while because you just closed the loan and you always skip a month. It's the way it works for all loans, pretty much. You're not going to pay any payments for a while, but your taxes are coming due, right? So taxes come out November, due in December, come out again in February, due in April. So let's just say that you refinance right now. It's February. Your first payment's going to be in April. Guess what's due in April? 6 months of taxes. All right. So the lender says, hey, we need to collect these taxes now because we know we're going to have to pay your tax bill when it comes up. So we need it now. So they're going to collect 6 months of taxes, and maybe your homeowner's insurance is coming due also in April. Well, the lender says, well, we got to collect 1 year's worth of homeowner insurance. And by the way, since you're skipping some payments, we want to get a little ahead. We're collecting an extra few months sometimes. Well, let's just say it's 12 months of insurance. So right there, your impounds $3,420. All right. That has to be taken care of at the close of escrow. Now, without getting too lengthy, the good news is you should have some of this money in your old impound account. You're going to get a refund. There's ways you can do it. You can self-pay to collect a refund. My advice right here, I would say if you can afford it, if you can manage your money to well enough, I'll just say it. If that's something you can do and you don't mind, never impound your mortgage. You can see just added $3,420 worth of costs. That money has to come from somewhere. You're always better off if you can just self-pay, right? But if you can't, that's fine. Most people don't. So either which way. So here we're looking at it. You have $3,050 worth of true loan costs and another $3,420 in impounds, which are not a loan cost, but the money has to be paid. It's for a total of $6,420 to do this loan. Okay, so back to the commercial guy, the radio guy on the commercial. So he says, we're going to do your loan and we will add no title, no appraisal, no other fees, right? Now, what they're talking about is the closing cost. They're not talking about these impounds. Oh, they're not paying your impounds, taxes, and insurance for you. Trust me, you still need to come up with that money. So we're going to set that aside from now. That was $3,420. We're going to set that aside in impounds. But this non-recurring $3,050, somebody's got to pay it. And the guy on the commercial is saying he'll pay it. Well, how is he going to pay it? Somebody's got to get paid, right? These title and escrow companies don't work for free. Underwriters don't work for free, on and on. So who's paying that? Well, remember the rate sheet that we talked about? Let's go back to my rate sheet here. Let me pull that up for you. All right, let's take a look at the chart here. And hopefully this will explain it to you and you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So let's just take a look at this and say, right, we have a loan amount of $320,000. And let's just say it's one of these where you're going to pay a 1 point origination. The loan amount is $320,000 and all these fees are going into the loan, right? So you have to pay off your old mortgage company. You're going to take out a new loan. You're going to put all of the fees plus a point into the loan, and you're going to put the impounds in a loan, and you are not going to pay 1 penny to get this loan done. It's all going to be added to the loan balance, and that's common, all right? So let's just take a look at this 1 point. So closing costs with 1 point. 1 point is the same as saying 1%. So 1% of the loan amount is $3,200, all right? So you had your impounds, and notice the impounds are the same no matter what. So what is the total, we'll say, cost, even though you know it's not a true cost because half of it's a cost, half of it's not. $9,670, right? Loan amount's $320. You get a rate of 2.75. That makes your payment $1,791. Well, let's compare that to as the fees start going away. So the next one down will be, all right, I like what you got there, Kevin, but I don't want to pay any points. You know, I heard this guy say never pay points. All right, fine, no points. So rather than having closing costs of $6,250, you have closing costs now of $3,050. Because you had less in closing costs by about $3,000, look down here, reduce the loan amount by $3,000, because remember, what I'm trying to do is you don't have any money out of pocket, and it gets that money that you don't bring in gets added to the loan amount. So $317, your rate is now 2.875, and your total payment is $1,800. Well, let's just stop there. Well, wait, why is the rate different on one than the other? Well, simple. We go back to a rate sheet, and let me take you back to a rate sheet. With the 1 point deal, your rate is 2.75. Why? Because that 1 point then becomes lender compensation. That's the profit right there. That 1 point you paid's profit. So you don't need to collect profit in the rebate, which you now understand. So your rate's 2.75. But you say, wait a minute, I don't want to pay any points. Well, there's got to be this profit somewhere. So the profit then becomes rebate, which you understand. So that bumps your rate to 2.875. All right. Now, while we're on this page, let's take it to the next column all the way over that was, hey, I don't want to pay any cost. I'm not paying them, and you're not putting them in my loan. You pay them, lender. Lender says, fine, I'll pay it. Your rate is 3.125. Why? Because I'm getting $6,422, and out of that, I'll pay your title and your escrow and your appraisal fees. You're still paying your own impounds, right? You want the no fee loan, you got no costs, right? But you got to pay your impounds. Don't forget that. So impounds are still the same. But guess what? You're bringing in that money. That's the way that works. When you listen to that commercial, you still have to bring in your impounds. Nobody else is going to pay them for you. So somebody's got to come up with $3,420. Let's go ahead and put that into the loan. So the difference between the two is $3,000. So we can drop the loan amount another $3,000, right? And your rate, though, is up at 3.125. Total payment $1,830. Now, using these total payment numbers, let's take a look over 360 payments. That's 30 years. Who did what? Well, let's just assume the guy with 1 point is he's at zero, right? He's our baseline. So the person with no points, what did they do? Well, over the life of the loan, they ended up paying an extra $3,240. That's exactly what the difference, almost exactly the difference between the 1 point and no point. So one way or another, you're going to pay that $3,000. Either you're going to pay it up front in a point, or you're going to pay it over the life of the loan. Now, here's the thing to consider, though. If you're ever going to move or pay off early, or refinance again, then clearly the no points is the better deal, because with the 1 point, you're paying it up front, and then you have to keep the loan for 360 payments before it actually breaks even and makes sense. If you think you might move, if you think that you might refinance, well, the no point was the way to go. Now let's take a look at the guy who listened to the commercial and did not want to pay anything, but he wanted his lender to pay it. Well, because his rate was so much higher, the payment was higher, and this person ends up paying $14,000 more over the life of the loan. Now, right there, you can see that's not a very good deal. So yes, the lender did pay for $3,050 worth of fees for you, but in return, you paid that lender back $14,000 for the gratitude for paying the $3,000. Not a good deal. Now, I do have to add one very important point when you look at all of these different scenarios. Where it becomes a good deal and not a good deal depends on how long you're going to keep the loan. So while I compared all of these over somebody who is paying for 360 payments or 30 years, where it makes a huge difference. Let's take a look at that guy who, yes, they would over the life of the loan maybe pay $14,000 extra, but what if that borrower were only in the house for 2 or 3 years and they knew that? Well, if you looked at the numbers and ran them that way, you would actually see that the person who did the no fee loan was the winner. So again, you got to run the numbers. You've got to figure out what the long-term strategy is and look at all of the options available. Now, it doesn't always work out like this. Every loan scenario is a little bit different. The numbers work out different. The difference between one rate or the other. So the point is, I want you to be aware when you hear these commercials. I want you to be educated. I want you to know that there are absolutely options, right? And so a good lender is going to lay out all of these options. They're going to talk to you. And in addition to these options, there's also options. Well, I just did 30-year. Well, what if you've already been paying on your loan for 8 years and you only want to do a 22-year loan so you don't extend it out? Hey, we can do that. What if you want to shorten it? You want to go to 15-year? What about a 17-year? I mean, these are all options now. So a really good loan officer should take a lot of time with you, explain all of these things, run every single scenario possible so you could take a look at it and figure out what works for you. All right, so hopefully that did make some sense to you. It was supposed to. I tried to. So next week, what do I want to talk about next week? Next week, I want to talk about why it isn't the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind to refinance just because you get a lower rate. I want to show you when you should really refinance, and I will explain to you why it makes me absolutely crazy to hear anybody on the radio or commercials say anything about, and I save them, whatever it is, money a month. All right, I'm going to explain that to you because it does. It makes me crazy. They're not saving you money per month. If you postpone a payment, it's not saving you. If you increase what somebody owes, it's not saving you, right? So talk about that next week. Hope to see you back, and take care. Bye.